I'm going to be the moderator for our panel today on blockchain innovation, rational use cases, and how they will shape this MetaWhat we're talking about. I have Natalie Gil joining me, Natalie Huynh, and we are waiting for one more person, MacKay Grant. Well, MacKay will join us, I'm sure. So I thought I'd introduce everybody because we have to speak quickly. And Natalie, I know you're a big part of this group. Natalie's career, in case people don't know, have spanned working with Fortune 500 firms in finance, as well as technology firms. She's guided many companies through modernizing systems and working with them in digitizing processes, and she brings that background to blockchain. So welcome, Natalie. Hi, MacKay.
Hi.
Hi. We're just doing introductions, and now we have Maddie. Maddie is managing a very busy set of commitments. She's in the midst of the action of working with DAOs and communities in the NFT space. She has a passion for nonprofits and also is a member of the Blockchain Acceleration Foundation. So much going on, Maddie. Hi.
Hey.
MacKay Grant. MacKay has been in the crypto world since 2015, making him one of the earliest adopters, almost an OG, right?
Yeah, feels like it.
He started as a miner and a trader, and he may have the longest view of the industry of all of us. One more note, Maddie and MacKay co-founded the Suffolk University Blockchain Club, so great for you. I'm Stephanie So. I'm deep into blockchain tech. I'm the co-founder of a company called Geek. You may hear about that in other forums. Geek is building a no smart contract secure settlement layer with an agnostic app layer on top. So I would be happy to stick around. But I thought that the format for this panel would be to do lightning rounds and questions. So I hope you guys are ready for lightning rounds. Okay. Do you think blockchain tech is ready, close to ready, or not yet ready to lead the way into a metaverse?
Well, I mean, I'd say it depends what you define the metaverse to be. I think Maddie's pretty into the metaverse stuff as well. But I would say overall, blockchain is probably about 40 to 50% there right now to handle what I think everybody's broad vision of what the metaverse should be is. So I think a lot of the infrastructure, the core infrastructure is there regarding what the metaverse needs to run on and what it will need. But when it comes to putting those ideas together, connecting different blockchains together, I don't think it's there. I think the community is there. I think the people are there and ready to be onboarded, but I don't think the full vision is there yet. And I think it's going to take some time.
Yeah, important questions about connecting the communities. Natalie, what do you think?
So same. I think there's also a huge acceleration in terms of adoption. And tested like in corporations too. So that's a good sign. Still not a good sign because all the Web3 and thing is like it's more collaborative, decentralized, and everything. But I think the fact that there's a corporate adoption of blockchain, it also tests that there's very mature use cases, and they're using that for traceability, for remittances, for a reconciliation and everything. So settlement. So that's good. So I think the technology is there because there's also a good set of, as MacKay mentioned, infrastructure in place. But connect the building blocks. They're still there, working on that. And I agree around that 50%. The other thing is that, there's been an acceleration of the adoption, but right now we're, hitting a wall because of hands needed to build this. So to integrate, to do more complex things. And we are not putting probably all the we're putting the focus, but still, a lot of work to do in terms of putting, training hands to keep building. So that's the thing. I think the architecture is there, the vision is there. In the technology side, I think it's, it's just we need to keep building and trying. That's why we're hitting the wall right now in terms of having more people that can build. So that's that, and I think that's gonna go through a stage where we get enough hands to do that. But I agree around the percentage of how the readiness for blockchain.
Yeah, it's a good point because you're both speaking to different audiences. MacKay is in the crypto world and NFT world, probably where people are ready, they're excited to go, but the tech is lagging. And Natalie is familiar with all the enterprise tech that's been built up and how they're excited to go. But you're both saying we're not ready. And I don't think that message has come out into the popular media or even on crypto Twitter yet, where people are expecting everything to be going so quickly. And in the background, we know that it's still a way away. Maddie, you're really into this.
Yes.
What do you think? How ready are we?
Well, I think we're close. I think we're close to ready, but I know for sure that if we're stepping into the metaverse, blockchain will take the lead. I think that because the nature of it's immutable and also it's very instantaneous. Yeah. The blockchain and the crypto assets are a necessary and integral part of how virtual reality will be implemented. I think, like as a part of Web3 community, as MacKay, I think we're very close to ready.
You think so? Okay, so the pieces are there in terms of interest in digital assets, crypto assets. Then there's I think it's MacKay, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got your name wrong.
No, that's okay. Yeah, whatever works. I'm used to just about everything.
Yeah, the interoperability and the smoothness part. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
I definitely add that it's not like this is gonna stop, right? We've had these so quote unquote crypto winters where things go under for a couple of years. I think the worst thing would be not having people building for a couple of years. It's okay if the prices go down for a couple of years. What matters is that technology is developing, and in the past we've seen both. We've seen a crypto bear market, a crypto winter, where it seems like all development and funding stops. I think the next one won't be that. I think the development is going to accelerate. I think the funding is going to accelerate. We're breaking a venture capital record with funding for crypto every year. So on that point, I think the metaverse, this isn't going to stop. Building this out isn't going to stop. The transition to Web3 isn't going to stop. But what needs to happen is a transition and a very good bridging from Web 2 to Web 3, because a lot of crypto right now and a lot of crypto apps rely on a lot of Web 2 infrastructure. And I don't think we're going to fully get to the metaverse that we want to see without having that happen. And then when it comes to interoperability, just this year, we're seeing some very interesting things with connecting blockchains, right? So I think Solana has a lot of bandwidth. Solana could be used for running a lot of different things in terms of gaming, perhaps. And then Ethereum, Polygon. Polygon seems like it's going to be good for gaming as well. Play to earn, maybe. But then you have Ethereum, right? Very expensive layer one. You have some layers on top of Ethereum like Optimism and Arbitrum, which are being primarily used for DeFi. But I think that could also be used to speed up that layer one and create a lot more interoperability. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be very important to use multiple blockchains in this.
And Natalie, you're really nodding. So this idea of many blockchains needing some kind of interoperability and continuing to build. Do you think that? Since you said it was hard to find builders, do you think what are the challenges there?
Well,
are they recognized?
yeah, that's sorry interrupt. That's an interesting question because I think the more complex things are not only the multi-chain integration, but also creating even like new protocols, right? So you can reuse some things that are there, like cryptography and everything, but probably you want to do something new, you need to start from scratch, and that's not something that needs um, very high level knowledge. I mean, if you want to do cryptography, you need people that have been trained like for decades. So, so it's different the type of profiles you need there. But going to the multi-chain part, I think that's also something that we there's a way to build and to onboard people to build them. But also, if we're gonna start doing like highly transactional things, you've seen the past days, right? On the past months, what's happening with the efficiencies on gas. But also depends on how the architecture of the protocols are made.
Yeah.
But I mean, multi-chain is. I think there's a lot of standards that can be portable to several chains, and right now they're pushing hard to do that. The good thing is that there's money to do that, so there's incentives for people to get in. So that's a good thing. But we still need to push for a number of roles there, and I think that interoperability. The thing is that right now all the composability is simpler because not because of blockchain today, but because of decades of work of other people, then they figure out a way to make interoperability better. And right now we're harvesting that type of guidelines. So it's good because right now is the time to do that because all the pieces are ready, right? So I think it's simpler today to put some integrations. We used to call it in the past, but it's good that we keep pushing there. So I think there's incentives, there's money, there's intentions, and right now there's way more eagerness to collaborate, right? There's no
Yeah.
silos are no longer things that we we need to do. So multiple protocols change. They're really collaborating together to get there. So I'm happy. This is a time to do that.
I have a couple comments about that from my world inside the protocol levels, and one thing I liked about hearing what you have to say, all of you, is the collaboration that's required, and having to start from scratch in some sense because we have to accommodate not only the digital items that Maddie talks about, but also this high transaction, incorporating the high transactions that Natalie was talking about, and then making it open, like MacKay and has seen in the past on all of these various platforms. So Maddie, I come back to you last. You're going to get first one of these questions. What do you think about the community view where you are in terms of what kinds of platforms and features that you would like to see
in the metaverse?
Yeah, well, to prepare for the metaverse.
Well, to prepare for the metaverse, I would love to see more of like more platforms that could have different architectures, and sort of like so those in the movies are like out of our imagination. So let's say we meet somewhere in March or somewhere in the universe instead of somewhere that we can imagine of based on our reality. So I would love to see more of imaginations and intellectual design architecture in the metaverse. Yep, in my opinion.
That's great. So everybody's kind of thinking along this timeline. I think you're
Yeah, I think
you're
integrating
visionary.
with the physical world is going to be important, and I think not being completely virtual, not being this made up game, but actually being something very tangible, interactive, and very customizable.
Natalie, do you see that crossover between virtual and physical, or do you think that it's going to be mostly virtually led?
So we still need to eat to to do some things that the interaction. I think right now, even developing relationships or things, you can do it virtual, but at some point you need to do something like eating, for instance, right? So that's something that what we used to call it the last mile. You can also eat like in front of your computer, but I we were talking about one event we run on. This is a platform. Um, we called what's the name of that? I'll tell you the name. Rec Room. So we were having a party there for a conference for women in technology, and then they said, okay, you can have t-shirts, you can have even pizza, but then you need to eat, right? So I think could be like 99% virtual, but there's some experiences that you need to keep doing, right? And then right now you've seen they're reinventing the type of experiences, and I'm picking the food thing because then you're looking not for food, because then there's a lot of right now dark kitchens, delivery, you get the food like perfectly at your home or wherever you are. But then if you go out, you're looking for an experience, right? So I think and even those experiences could be combined, because then you can get on, I don't know, sit in a restaurant with other people on another restaurant in another city, but but you're eating. So I think that won't be that won't be go away in any time. But I think there's this type of things that you still need to do. And there's other services that are being hybrid for longer. And I work in healthcare for the past years till the end of last year, and that's the other thing, that it can be 90% virtual, and it's with VR and even surgeries and everything. But there's a point when you need something, you need to go in person, on somebody comes in person to take care of you. So yeah, that's a lot of things that, especially the I think the best thing of the pandemic was that there was adoption of all types of people, generations, to be eager to sit in front of a camera to have a medical appointment, for instance, right? So then from that, I think we have adoption is important, because then you understand the interaction. I'll stop there, but there's a number of examples that you can do that, and then I think more is an entertainment right now. There are other type of examples that are getting there.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the use cases that was emphasized we should cover in this panel. I'll start with you, Maddie. What is your pick for the most achievable rational use case by the end of this year, or at the latest by the end of next year? What's your favorite?
My favorite one is the gaming. So like gaming in metaverse in like Decentraland. People can buy lands inside the world, host live events, play games, and then do more exciting activities, which are also possible in the real world. The best thing I like about this is also the DAO aspect of it, the decentralized autonomous organization aspect of it. So the platform is fully owned and regulated by its user. User can vote for the decisions such as feature upgrades and optimization, propose significant changes, and participate in governance. I think like this is what I like about the metaverse. I think that we cannot deny the power of like play to earn. We participate in the metaverse, have fun there, but also to make a living from there. And I think that's rational.
Are you involved in projects or communities that are already thinking about this or already implementing this?
Well, gaming. Yep. I mean, like, I talked to founders of some of the projects, but I'm not participating in playing to earn NFTs yet. Yeah, but I mean, like, I love the idea.
Okay, great. MacKay, you are young in one sense, you're old in the crypto sense, and I'm just wondering if you put on your hat for those perspectives and then think about the people outside the crypto world still. do you think these things sound rational to each of those groups?
Well, yeah, I'm like an elder statesman or something here. But no, I think I don't. It actually, no matter how long you've been involved in this space, even if you've been, I think who really has an also interesting perspective is people that went through the dot-com era and who were building in that time, and then are able to see, the release of Bitcoin in 2008. And then, of course, people like me and also Maddie, who were almost born into the start of this. So we were almost very, very deep inside of the realm of this specific technology. Um, and I would say when it comes to saying, oh, what's the biggest next use case? Well, I think we have an idea of what many of those use cases could be, whether it's applied NFTs, using things for supply chain or for tracking or using blockchains to create new types of databases. Um, so there's many different things that can happen. Also, I think it's important to take the perspective of the market cycles here, because it does really relate to the amount of innovation and what's going to be released. So I would say maybe we're at the end of a growth kind of cycle of hype, and I think we need to settle down a little bit and let the dust clear, just to see what's going to happen and where things are going for the next phase of hyper growth. But I'm really interested in DAOs. As Maddie said, I think DAOs are really going to ignite a new kind of startup organization. And I think that group of those groups of people with that kind of infrastructure and setup, decentralized autonomous organizations, is really understated right now. And a lot of people are looking at like what's the next NFT project, what's the next big metaverse thing. But really, at the center of this, we have DAOs. These groups of people that are coming together to really create value. And I think for the first time, we're seeing this new organizational structure that's creating massive value very, very fast, and it's rewriting the code of what makes a great startup and what speed and scale really are. So I think that's really going to be the interesting thing to see.
There's no doubt. Anybody who even looks at the headlines and isn't familiar with the area, the speed and scale of creating value can't be ignored, right, in the marketplace. But you mentioned two use cases there. You talked about supply chain, and I think there are possibilities for NFTs there. And then there's the NFT world that most people are used to thinking about, possibly to do with gaming or digital representations of things in MetaWhat. But when you talk about DAOs, I wonder if you lose or if you worry about what people in supply chain might think, that these are companies, and now you're talking about an organization that is going to define a startup. So what are your thoughts about how those two can be? Are we done? Sorry. We're not done. We have a little more time. Those kinds of cultures, will they come together, or do you think they'll sort of stare at each other for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing both, right? We're seeing a lot of large corporations really feeling like they have a need to take advantage of what's going on in the blockchain space. At the same time, I think part of that is just a very simple thing of corporations being able to reach out and go into a market that maybe they don't really care about anyway, but they're just doing it for the market share and the PR, or just to see what happens. So we're seeing both. We're seeing both fundamental adoption on one side, and then I think we're seeing almost like they're just covering their themselves for what might happen, but they don't really believe in it. So we're definitely seeing both. But yeah, I think we'll see I think adoption when it comes to what's really working well on blockchain right now, and that's a few things. I think just like a few fundamental things that will be adopted very fast and that already have been. when it comes to something like supply chain, like I mentioned, I think we're going to see both full-on crypto startups that are going after that, and we'll see how it works, right? We haven't really seen that yet. We don't have much to go on. And then we'll see companies that have been doing that type of work for years and years and years, and they're trying to build some things internally. And then I think we'll see partnerships and collaborations between, what you could say the past 30, 50 years of infrastructure has been, and then whatever we're seeing right now with blockchain and its capabilities. Will we see like some sort of a new blockchain, like supply chain coin? I don't think that's really going to work out. I think it's going to be a lot of collaboration. I think that's going to be necessary.
I don't think that the big major firms would be a winner take all here, because blockchain technology is fundamentally different. It works by building consensus among multiple parties and hence create, a level playing field. Blockchain communities and especially, like building the metaverse applications, it's based on the technology's original philosophy, which is decentralizations. So it helps, and it would help companies stay competitive for two reasons. I think one is it doesn't create a one company solution, and it doesn't build a blockchain as a service solution controlled by corporate entity. So therefore, they incentives members with native cryptocurrencies or governs itself with rules and regulations set by the group that forms it. So I think that if the big major firms want to get in, they really have to learn the technology and embrace the philosophy of the space.
Okay, that's a big challenge, it sounds to me. There must be a spectrum of firms who are willing to do that, and some who are perhaps not ready. Natalie, I'm going to turn to you for your expertise in looking at these firms.
And there's these firms that, turning, and here's the thing, right? There's turning the actual decentralization into centralization because, you need to, in order to have decentralization, you need to put, let's say, right, in a particular chain nodes. But then, right now you don't have your own node in your infrastructure unless you have it, or it's on one cloud. So then you're going back to centralization. And then, if you want to deploy Hyperledger, for instance, you can deploy like in 5 minutes in AWS, in Azure. I tried those. I think the Oracle Cloud too. So it's like, okay, they are opening their doors, but really it's not like decentralizing, right? Because probably you have one node of each company, but they are in the same cloud. So you're going back to centralization. The other thing is that I agree that there are some companies that are already working together. The silos are no longer something like, you need to work with your competition. So there's been in the past years consortiums and everything else. But if we want to have something 100% decentralized, even if we're working intentionally to have a node separated from the, some decentralized storage and some, everything else, if we go down to internet, unless we have our own network, like then it's run by 5 telcos and 3, hardware providers for all the all the equipment. Like it's run by Cisco, Huawei, and a couple more things. So it's like, what type of centralization we're at? And we being very like independent, we're talking about. That's something we need to think about too. So I think right now companies are eager to do that. Some companies are like, why you want to deploy blockchain on a cloud? That's something like, for me, it's like, okay, if I want to do a test, it's fine, but then it's not like just causing a lot of noise on me. And they're already thinking about what type of decentralization we're talking about, because we're just tied to some centralization at the very low level and some other levels too. So I think that's something that we need to think about. Bottom line, companies right now, I'm trying to, some of them are doing the wrong, and it's kind of wrong actually, but I think
yeah. I think it's also like decentralization on a base layer, and then there's right on an infrastructure level, and then there's decentralization on an application level.
Mhm.
And the question is, does it even matter, and will it even work in some things, right? Decentralization is great for creating neutral platforms, like creating digital nations like Ethereum is, but also I don't know how well decentralized or true decentralization will work on an application specific level, when it comes to things that are built on top of layer ones. And I don't really know if it would work or if it would matter, right? Though I think it does matter very, very much, and it's a strategic application of blockchain when it comes to a layer one level.
Mhm.
I wonder, it would make a great other topic for another panel to sort of bring together the view of technology and what can be done from the people who are involved in DAOs and people who are involved in the blockchain technology and know the range of centralized blockchain to decentralized blockchain, and the stakeholders of these companies that are trying to get into metaverse. I think we probably each have a different idea of what's possible, and it just seems to me like an interesting area to explore. All right, well, how Natalie, you talked about not having a winner take all scenario at the end of, or maybe at the beginning of MetaWhat. Do you think, why do you think that? Do you think that the forces of centralization will fail for some reason in the next web, or what do you think?
I think that that's not a technical issue. Decentralization things and distributed technologies are been there for a long time. But right now, because of all the awareness that we can, everybody has, most of around the world, you have access to internet, even if it is very slow, right? Or some type of connectivity. So, it's about the people that right now we are getting what's going on. We're eager to participate. So it's about the people. So centralized systems are gonna fail because they're gonna lack of they're gonna be challenged, not because of the technology, but because of people. And they're gonna right now people are organizing so you can get more options to get financial products and services. And why should I go to a bank, or why should I go to some other places? So it's about people, and I think right now they're conscious about that. There's a wave of things going on around the world politically, and so there's more awareness, thinking, access to information, and everybody's asking, like you've seen all these waves around, fake news and everything, but there's other ways around. You have access to information, so you need to go through that. It's more about people challenging that rather than the technology. It's been there, and a lot of the crypto and everything that's building, like put together on the Bitcoin white paper, it's been there for years. So, but the way it was put, I think right now, it was the good moment to do that, and then all the things that are built on top of that. So that's what I think, and I think it's more about that rather than technology. Right now, you can connect the dots, and it's fine, but it's the right moment for everything.
Yeah.
Or Stephanie.
Rodrigo had an interesting question in the Q&A section that asks, how can people differentiate a true DAO from those gourmetized blockchain initiatives? So this is definitely a good question, because DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, has already become this special fancy term that people are using to represent things that aren't truly decentralized autonomous organizations. So I think the number one thing would be to look at who's behind it, right? There's always probably going to be a founder or two, maybe a founding team, of course, right? These things don't just magically appear out of everything, and they're not just fully decentralized. But if it's a corporate initiative, I mean, that's one thing, right? Look at the background. Who's funding this organization? If it's a corporate initiative, if it's an initiative by people that have done projects before and they're not really here for the true potential of blockchain. So looking at who's behind it, do they have a background in blockchain? I think it's one thing that's definitely understated is looking at the people, right? because when you think about blockchain, you're always looking at, oh, what are the applications? What could this be in 10 years? But still, we can't assume that these are all these automated, pieces of software that are just going to make magic happen, right? There's always a team. So I think that's key, is looking at the team, verifying the team, and then looking at the structure of it. What tools is it built on? Is it built on a fully decentralized infrastructure? Is it using, certain DAO toolkits? So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing, and then just watch their execution and the community, of course.
I completely agree. From the blockchain tech side, I remember coming into this area and thinking, decentralization, why don't we do it straight away? But as we build, I've started to understand why projects go through the centralization part on the way to a decentralization part, simply because it's software, and you want to have your arms around some of the you want to have some centralization to control how the software is being built. Like you say, there's a team and a founder before you start going toward more decentralized stages. So I have a little more patience for that now, but I think we will get there. And in terms of what Natalie was saying, and Maddie, I'm sure you see this, the level of connectivity in the world, we still are missing about a third of the population in terms of good access to the internet. So I wonder how you would approach a firm, one of the big tech players, in saying, look, there are all these people who are coming in. How can you convince them that the meta things that they're thinking about have to be more receptive to the community, to the people? Like you were saying, Maddie, you were saying, these organizations are going to really be the ones that lead, and other corporations will have to follow somehow. So what would be the pitch in some sense? Or anybody?
That's definitely a multifaceted question to answer. I think it depends on who you're going to. But I think the fundamental pitch would be is that you have the opportunity to usher in probably the next great century of technology in terms of unique new use cases and individual use cases. I'd say individual empowerment, right? Blockchain is really based on this idea, and certain blockchain applications like Bitcoin are based on this idea of self-sovereignty, that one with that wallet address is the only one that can control that wallet address, and that within that wallet address, there are different assets which are only controlled by that individual or the group of individuals in the multi-signature case. Then that's just something very interesting, right? The immutable nature of the blockchain. But right, I mean, it's very important to address the fact that there's, millions and millions, hundreds of millions. I'm not even sure the exact number, in the billions, I'm assuming, that don't have access to the internet at all, or they don't have the same access to the internet and technology that we have right now here in America and other parts of developed nations. So I think actually that a decentralized technologies and decentralized infrastructures could really bring them up to the same level fast. I would bring in Starlink here, which is a SpaceX initiative. That's something very interesting because it's a lot more open than other internet service providers. And I could almost see that being done using blockchain applications and creating a hybrid blockchain internet that could be deployed very, very fast and bring people broad internet access in a very interesting way.
Yeah. We live in a news world where the big firms seem completely dominant, that they cover everybody in the world, and it's not true. So there is this opportunity. Do you think that NFT worlds are going to be tribal in some way, or are they going to join together in a more concerted push toward being part of this meta what? And this time, Maddie, I'd like to give you a chance to talk.
Sure. Well, I think the NFT community would be the first to adopt this and to jump into the meta. Me and MacKay, like our group, we did an event in the metaverse where we show NFTs of students and raise funds for charity. And MacKay is also an artist, so some of his pieces were in the metaverse. We use Decentraland. I feel like NFT community would benefit the most from the metaverse because of how accessible it is to connect with other people globally and to show their art without any intermediary. Yeah.
Yeah, the borderless nature is it's super powerful. And just to add to that real quick, I think in terms of tribalism, we're going to see that at the core of these things. We're going to see it within who's running these things. But also, there's something very, very unique when you're deep into crypto, and that's that people are very, very open and accepting. I've never seen an amount of people willing to help you and willing to work with you, even what you could call competitors. It's really very unique, and we're kind of in this together, and we're kind of moving towards a higher purpose.
Yes, there's Wacky. We're all gonna make it. You know, like the hashtag in Web3 community. When I go to conferences and these community people connect by phone number, by Telegram, instead of an email, and they're very like open and very helpful. It seems like we really fight for the adoption.
I agree. It's a sea change in the culture. I don't think we've seen it before globally. Natalie, have you thought about privacy at all? In
general metaverse and everything. Here's the thing that happens, and most of the regulation that it's right now in place, some of it is like, it took years to be in place because governments and policymakers, they wanted to be the best, to do the best. Some of them probably they have agendas, some others not, but that's the thing. And then technically, there's ways to protect users in general in terms of privacy. The regulations, probably some of them help, some others not. When we are in community, you expect people that, I think Maddie mentioned that many times, right? And MacKay as well, is like you have a lot of collaboration in the good way, because we meet like 90% of people that they have good intentions. They're really, living like a lot of things, for other people to leverage. So a lot of things. Sorry, my camera is glitching. But the thing is that there's also people trying to take advantage of that. So that's the bad part, right? That there's also, because of we are all empowered to do things. I just switch my empowered to do things. Then we have more responsibility because we don't have a central authority that we can, ask, like, okay, I have a problem, I pay my insurance, and then I know that right now there's some things going on to help people to be on board. But right now you're responsible. So not only privacy, security, and a number of other things, that's a different world. And right now what we have in terms of technology and regulation is there. But most of the things that fail in terms of privacy and security are not around technology. It's around social engineering. So that's the way you get hacked. You get your camera, your wallet, or whatever. So that's a thing we need to keep working on. So I think that about that all the time, because there's a responsibility when you onboard somebody, that you need to explain not only the way to use a wallet to keep their keys safe and your passphrase and everything, but also for them to be aware of what's going on. Like right now, there's a big concern about that. But I think it's more about education and to be surrounded by the right people. There's also bad people there, and there's also the other thing that and that happened to me at some point is like, and then you screw that too, because then I have an address and the address changed, so I send some money to test, and the money's gone like I don't know where. so, but I keep testing and doing things and trying with contracts and everything. So there's a number of things you can do, but I'm very concerned, and I think the community helps a lot, and people open to hear what's going on and to learn. That there's a lot of things that are not there yet. Technology is there yet? Yes. Adoption is there yet? Yes. Right now we have a different environment, so we need to be aware of that. That's a long topic, but I think
so we're running out of time, but I wanted to highlight something that's come out in all of your comments, which is something that's hitting me for the first time, really. There's this positive community and feeling and goals that are underlying every one of us who are working toward a more decentralized, more creative, more open meta thing. There's also a lot of communities that support each other and have the education to try to teach people how to work with their wallets and sign and keep secure. And so people who are hesitant about coming into this area, we've already done a lot of work to produce education. It just may not be easily available. And to Natalie's point that there are a lot of good people and a few bad ones, I think we're suffering from this current environment where the few bad ones get all the attention. And maybe we need to work a little harder at saying, these are the exceptions rather than the rules. When you come into this area, yes, you have to be prepared. Like MacKay said, check out the teams, find your organizations that will help you out. But somehow I think we have to work better at saying those aren't the majority by any means. And so it is community building. The tech is getting closer. Let's say it's at least 50%, and we can do a couple things in a couple years. And yeah, I think everybody should be thinking about building and engaging people in this meta thing as a positive movement. And I think we're out of time. So thank you, everyone, and hope to see you again on one of these.
Thank you. It was great talking with you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, let's see. Leave stage, that big.
Hey everyone, so I'm just going to appear up here on stage so that you're not seeing black. That was a great chat from all of our panelists. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Maddie. Thank you so much, Natalie and MacKay. We're going to be coming up next with our second panel, which is going to be moderated by Mariam Nusrat, focusing on gaming and the future of other industries in this space. And then we're going to be doing the metaverse take shape. So make sure to ask any questions, engage in the chat. We love having all of you here. And also to all of our future listeners and viewers who are watching us on replay,